How's it going, everyone? This is the George here, and today I'm going to be reviewing Deadpool 2. That's right, the second Deadpool movie, the last movie to watch before Deadpool and Wolverine comes out. I know it comes out tonight in some theaters worldwide tomorrow. I'm seeing the movie Saturday, but before I do that, I want to share my thoughts on Deadpool 2. So, this is the 2018 sequel to the first film, this time directed by David Leitch, and once again stars Ryan Reynolds as the Merc with a Mouth. Also, Josh Brolin appears in this movie as Cable. And don't forget, this was also the year of Avengers Infinity War. In fact, Infinity War came out, I think, 2 weeks before Deadpool 2 came out in theaters. So, in this one, we see Deadpool going through a tough time. Criminals that wanted revenge on him break into his apartment, and when they're shooting at him, a bullet hits Vanessa, killing her. And so Wade wants to join her in the afterlife, but due to his mutant powers, he cannot die. So Colossus finds him after he tries blowing himself up and recruits him to the X-Men. And on his first X-Men mission, Deadpool comes across a boy named Russell and goes to this school where the mutant kids are being mistreated. And when Deadpool finds out, he kills one of the adults that mistreated him. So him and Russell go to this mutant prison in the snowy mountains. And Russell looks up to Deadpool because Deadpool's the first adult to ever stand up for him. And even though Deadpool is trying to push him away and wants to die because he's got this collar that's taking away his mutant power, so he thinks he can finally join Vanessa. Cable comes in and he's trying to kill this kid. Now, the thing is with Deadpool 2 is the plot does seem formulaic. It's similar to the Terminator, where some cyborg comes from the future and is trying to kill some kid or someone in present day in order to prevent something happening in the future. It can be good or bad. In this case, Cable reveals that this kid Russell, after he kills the headmaster of the school that he went to, starts going on a killing spree to the point where he kills Cable's family. And that's why Cable is going back in time and trying to kill him before he kills anyone. But we also have Deadpool, who, if you recall in the first film, he never thought of himself as a hero. Here, he's actually trying to be the hero for this kid. He's trying to steer this kid on the right path after feeling bad about not helping him before. And we see him and Cable butting heads as to what they should do involving this kid. And another thing similar to the first movie is this does borrow from other movies. The opening title sequence right away is reminiscent of a James Bond opening sequence. If you recall, in James Bond movies, they got that fancy song playing with some nice imagery during the title sequence. Here, it's involving Deadpool. You got some of the prison stuff where Russell and Wade are in the mutant prison. So that's very reminiscent of a prison movie. I'll definitely say, despite the formulaic plot, I think Deadpool 2 is a lot better than it's given credit for. In fact, if I'm going to be honest, I think this movie has aged better 6 years later. And it's not because it turned out to be better than a lot of the comic book movies that have come out in the last 6 years, but I feel like the jokes, at least the majority of them, still land better in this movie. I think the stakes and the heart hit better because, as Wade says in the beginning of the movie, this is more of a family movie. Now, it's not a family movie in the sense that, yeah, you can take your family and go see it. It's still an R-rated movie. The action is still bloody, gory. There's still some inappropriate jokes in there. But it's family in the sense that it's about Deadpool finding his family when his chance of having a family was taken when Vanessa got shot. So it's really about finding family despite the stuff that you've done and all the other horrible stuff that's happening. And also helping this kid Russell out. Now I'm going to get to the kid Russell real quick. His line delivery comes across as cringe. Like at one point in the movie, he says something like about like feels good to be a gangster. But in fairness, I think the cringe line delivery pays off. In my opinion, I feel like it actually benefits the movie and makes it more hilarious. It's not cringe in the sense that, oh goodness, he's talking again. It's cringe in the sense that I actually personally found it to be funny. I didn't mind it in the slightest. And as far as like, him being annoying to Wade in the prison, I can't really blame him because Wade was the first adult who actually stood up for him and killed someone that treated him horribly. So I kind of understand Russell's point of view where, yeah, he's going to latch on to this one adult that did something good for him and actually believed him about someone abusing him. So when he sees Wade and Cable fighting in the prison and hears Wade saying that he doesn't really care about the kid, I understand how hurt he was and why he later goes to this mysterious, strong, mutant, monster like thing, which later reveals to be the Juggernaut. And Juggernaut was handled way better in this movie than he was in X-Men The Last Stand. I love what they did with Juggernaut in this movie. Terrific job there. X-Force is in this movie. And the X-Force stuff, I'm going to be honest, the first couple times I watched this movie, as funny as it was, I was disappointed that we didn't really get proper X-Force, or at least X-Force in the way that was presented. But honestly, the way they did it is comedic genius, in my opinion, after rewatching it a few more times. Because you have this cool team that you're putting together, and you're thinking, like, based on the trailers, that, oh, Deadpool's going in with the team, and we're going to get future X-Force movies. But there was also that little concern that I had that is this going to focus more on setting up an X-Force movie in the future, like how other superhero sequels, like Amazing Spider-Man 2, was kind of setting up Sinister Six. But yeah, the X-Force stuff when they're getting off the helicopter, and they're even hinting that the wind conditions are rough. Most of the members die horribly. And the one member that survived is Domino, played by Zazie Beetz. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. And she rocks in the role of Domino. I don't think she gets talked about enough, but I thought she was really great as Domino. I love the sequence where she's landing, she's having a real smooth landing after everyone else had a really crappy, crummy, life-ending landing, and she's just walking through the street. All this crazy stuff's happening. Poles are falling down, cars are crashing, and nothing bad's happening to her. And meanwhile, Wade is ranting about how luck is not a real mutant power and all of that. Stuff like that in these Deadpool movies that I enjoy a lot. And I will say the action, I think, was actually choreographed really well in this movie. I think that's one thing that this movie does better, I feel like, than the first Deadpool movie. I think the action looks better and was choreographed better. I think David Leitch has experience with action movies, so I think that really helps as well. The humor, majority of the time, works, but there's some times where it doesn't quite work. That's where I get more into my negatives. There's sometimes where a joke, I think, drags on longer than it needs to, particularly after Juggernaut rips Deadpool in half and Deadpool's lower half is regrowing. First couple of jokes about that was funny, but then after a while, it was kind of that, like, look, it's being mentioned again kind of thing, and it just got a bit annoying for me, in my opinion. It stopped being funny. One thing I'll also say in regards to negatives, I don't really have a lot of negatives with this movie, to be honest. As I said, I think this movie's underrated and a lot better than people give it credit for. But another thing that annoyed me about the movie is TJ Miller's character, Weasel. I've never really been a big fan of this character. I didn't mention him in the first Deadpool review that I did earlier this week. I mean, his character wasn't terrible in the first movie, but was never really a huge fan of the character to begin with. And I know TJ Miller's stuff's come out about him, I'm not going to get into in this video. But even before all that stuff, I just never been a big TJ Miller fan, to be honest. I couldn't stand his character in Transformers Age of Extinction. Here, I don't know, maybe it was just me. I could be wrong. I just felt like he was in this movie not just more than the first Deadpool movie, but more than he needed to be. And I just didn't find him hilarious at all. I like the stuff with Dopender in this movie. He wants to be more in on the action. And there's this hilarious scene where Deadpool, Domino, and Cable are running to the school that Russell's at to stop him from killing the headmaster. And Dopender's running with them. And, he's like, oh, so I'm finally going to be on the action kind of thing. But then when he sees that shit's about to go down, he's like, yeah, I better go back in the taxi. But he has a really cool scene where he runs over and kills that horrible headmaster. And he's having his moment. He's cheering. And I found that to be hilarious. That's the thing I love about Deadpool 2. While I have criticized the few jokes that I think drag on, most of the humor, I think, holds up very well. And I think that's a problem that not just MCU movies, some modern day DC movies, the last DCEU movies, and even non-comic book movies that do try to attempt humor, I feel like the humor in Deadpool 2 for me holds up better than a lot of other movies do. That's just how I see it. Another thing about Deadpool 2 I don't want to nitpick, but I do feel like besides some jokes, there's just a couple of scenes that I think if you just cut a couple of minutes out of the scene, I think it could have been handled better. For example, at a certain point in the movie, Deadpool takes a bullet for Russell, and he's dying. He has the collar on that's taking away his powers, and he's letting himself die. And you think he's going to die, but then he wakes up. And it happens a few times, and I think after a while, kind of got old. I think they were just overdoing the joke. And it's one of those things where it's supposed to be both funny and emotional at the same time. And I think neither the funny and the emotional aspect landed as well as they probably could have, for me at least. The car chase sequence that I mentioned involving Domino running the street, where Deadpool's trying to get to that convoy. Entertaining. Action was very entertaining in this movie. There's a hilarious cameo from the more recent X-Men cast, like James McAvoy playing Professor X, and the other more recent X-Men cast members from Apocalypse appearing at the manor, seeing Deadpool and shutting the door. I enjoyed that because Deadpool's always making jokes saying why are there no more X-Men? The Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead stuff, still entertaining and funny as always. I love the Colossus Deadpool dynamic in this one as well because he keeps trying to give Wade all these chances, but then when Wade kills the one guy that was mistreating Russell in front of a bunch of people, on camera as well, Colossus is so disappointed. It takes him a while to come around. Negasonic Teenage Warhead has a girlfriend named Yukio. Not the same Yukio from the Wolverine, a different version or variant. I don't know what's going on in the Fox multiverse. I haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine yet to really understand what's going on. But I like the interactions between Wade and Yukio. They're adorable. They're funny. But yeah, overall with Deadpool 2, I enjoyed this movie a lot. I probably enjoy this movie a lot more than many others. But outside of a few stuff dragging on longer, a few characters I wasn't jiving with, and me being not as good as the first movie, I still think Deadpool 2 is a solid sequel. I think it's better than a lot of superhero sequels that we got. It's not one of the best superhero sequels. It's not a sequel that's better than the first one, but I feel like where this movie could have easily made the same mistakes as Avengers Age of Ultron and The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it managed to avoid those mistakes and still tell a solid Deadpool story despite adding a few more mutant X-Men characters to it. And Ryan Reynolds, he's still entertaining as always. He's great in this role. I've been talking about the other stuff. I forgot to mention Ryan Reynolds is still excellent as Deadpool. He's, in my opinion, one of the top 10 best casting choices, best performances in comic book movies. But yeah, I'm going to give Deadpool 2 an A-. This is a funny, entertaining, but I think also has a lot of heart and emotion in this movie. So yeah, I'm going to give this film an A-. I think it's a lot better than people give it credit for. And what are your thoughts on Deadpool 2? Did you love it? Did you hate it? And what Deadpool movie do you prefer so far? Deadpool 1 or Deadpool 2? Let me know in the comments down below. And I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe already if you haven't. Please share us with someone that likes the Deadpool movies. And I hope to see you guys real soon. Take care, everyone.